Hello aspirants and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we will be discussing about the winners and the losers of the US-Iran war. In fact, the US-Israel versus Iran war that is ongoing. In that war, who are the winners, who are the losers? Of course, we will be discussing our India as well, and of course, United States of America and other countries also with respect to this analysis. So let's get started with this video. So this article is dealing basically about the winners and losers, or basically the impact of the ongoing war and who are gaining from it, who are losing from it, and what is the overall impact over the entire world. So the conflict is involving whom? United States of America and Israel, who were the aggressors who attacked Iran unprovoked, and as a result of which Iran had to defend itself, because of which there is a conflict that is going on around the world. Now, with respect to this conflict, there is an organization named OECD, that is Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, that has come up with an interim economic outlook for the world, in which they analyze what is the growth outlook of the world and what is the impact of the war, anything that is going on during that time, they analyze and give their conclusions. So that is what has been done. The focus of this entire interim economic outlook is the GDP growth, inflation, and the exchange rate. That is the foreign exchange rate is what is discussed. With respect to this, the OECD has given its stance. Right, so we will see what stance they have given one by one. So let us first have a look at the global context. So it is quite clear that the war has disrupted the financial market, specifically the stock market, that means the shares, the bond market, wherein this is basically bonds are debt instruments using which you can borrow or lend money, and the commodities market, specifically oil, gold, gas, etc. has been hampered. Now, specifically over here, the reason for this commodities issue is specifically the strategic choke point, that is Strait of Hormuz, which has been sort of blocked by Iran. Now remember, the Strait of Hormuz is not completely blocked by Iran. Iran has blocked it, but said that it is blocked for the enemies and their allies, but for the friendly nations it is still open. That means for India, for Russia, for China, and even for Pakistan, whom they consider to be their friendly country, for them it is still open, and our ships are also passing through the Strait of Hormuz. But for the enemies, that is USA, Israel, and their allies, it is still closed. That is why having an impact on this as well. Now, what has been the key observation? The key observation, surprisingly, by OECD is that the global GDP growth appears unchanged overall. So overall, there might not be much change. That means what? That can mean that no one is impacted at all, but that's not the case. Impact is there. So there are some losers and some winners, as a result of which it is getting balanced, and the overall GDP growth will sort of remain unchanged. However, this is hiding what? The divergence across countries. Divergence as in, even in the war, USA is gaining, other countries are losing. Right? Unequal economic impact can be hidden if you just consider this. If I simply consider that the growth is going to be unchanged, I will hide the fact that because of this, certain countries would be impacted positively and certain countries would be impacted negatively, and that is the impact that we have to study. So let's understand the biggest economic losers. The biggest economic losers are Europe and the United Kingdom. Why are we taking United Kingdom separately? It is also a part of Europe, yes, but it came out of basically the Brexit. Remember, there was Brexit, right? So UK had come out of the European Union and wanted to have its trade agreements and everything separately, and not, because when you are a part of that group, your decisions will taken together. UK came out of it. That is why we are talking about Europe separately and United Kingdom separately. So they are the biggest losers. European Union's growth is going to be down by around 0.4%. Now 0.4% you may think is not much, but it is. Why it is much? Because if your GDP was 100, you would assume that round about 2% growth rate, so it should become 102. But instead it is going to become 99.6 because there is a 0.4% decline. So the overall impact is what? That 2% growth which you were assuming is not going to happen, rather there is going to be a minus 0.4%. So there is a total of 2.4% of reduction. So that needs to be also taken into consideration. With respect to United Kingdom, there is going to be a decline by 0.5% over here. Now, further, even India, they have classified under the biggest losers, because we will also see our growth slow down, and more importantly for India, the currency depreciation. You might have heard the news that the currency, $1 has breached 94 rupees as well. I hope that is clear. Then same with the case with Brazil, additional deceleration of the GDP is taking place, and these are the real GDP growth rate 2025 March 26 estimation, and the change since December, how much is the change. So you can see with respect to estimation for India also, it's red, it's negative. Brazil also, Euro area as well as United Kingdom, they are the losers. But there are some neutrality. For example, for the rest, for the entire world, it's zero. For China and Saudi Arabia, not much of an impact. But for Russia and United States, there is a positive. Why is there a positive for Russia? See, the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. Their production is going to go down because the refineries are hit, so on and so forth. As a result of which, the countries would want to procure more from Russia. So Russia would see increase in the capacity, the production, and hence increase in the GDP, which is anyhow there. Whereas USA is concerned, they are getting more and more money for producing more and more missiles, more and more defense. So that production is going to see an increase. That is why when you talk about winners or the countries that are less affected, then you see the first name, that is the United States of America. So it is again clear by OECD which country is actually gaining. So USA gains, GDP is going to gain. GDP is going to be boosted by about 0.3 percentage points. Reason? Strong domestic demand, of course, AI and tech investments, oil production advantage. The USA also had in agreement with India also that Venezuela oil procurement, now the USA companies will be involved in Venezuela, right? So all those things are the reason. Russia also slightly gains. I've told you the reason for that. China largely is going to be unaffected. China always finds out other sources of their exports and imports. Next is the impact with respect to inflation and currency. There is going to be, of course, inflation surge. When the production of crude oil goes down, supply of crude oil goes down, everything needs to be transported. All the goods needs to be transported using crude oil. Crude oil goes up, prices go up, every other price also goes up. So there will be increase in inflation. Now when there is inflation, there is going to be depreciation of the currency. Now, so this is not a good thing, and we have seen the impact, especially with respect to India. Rupee has fallen. $1, as you can see, is now 94.6 rupees. So this is the present status of Indian rupee as of 27th March in the morning. This article contains that snapshot as well. It has breached 94 rupees, right? Inflation will also increase, but the good thing about that is inflation presently in India was at its all-time low. So a slight increase would affect us, but not to the level of exacerbating inflation too much. In fact, our food inflation was into the negative. So here it may go into the positive a bit, and we would still be able to maintain our 4 plus minus 2% of inflation rate. So with respect to this, we are sorted a bit. But yes, Indian rupee is depreciating. To avoid that, RBI is conducting the open market operation, wherein it is dumping the foreign exchange, specifically the dollars, in order to appreciate the rupee a bit against the dollars. Why that is important? See, when rupee depreciates, of course your exports benefit, but your imports take a hit. And since India has a huge amount of compulsory imports, we cannot afford to lower the imports. We will still have higher imports, as a result of which our import bill is going to go up, especially because the rupee has depreciated. So sudden depreciation, even appreciation of rupee is not what is desired. It needs to be balanced properly. So we want the rupee to strengthen, so the RBI is selling dollars and buying rupees in order to strengthen the rupee, but still the pressure is so much that it has still breached 94 rupees. So if and when the war actually subsides, we can get back to normal, but in the meanwhile we have to manage this situation in order to ensure that we absorb the shock that is coming our way. Thank you.